Emily Crawford adjusted the strap of her designer handbag as she stepped into the softly lit Italian restaurant, her heels clicking against the wooden floor. As the CEO of one of the city's most successful tech companies, she rarely had time for personal life, much less blind dates. Yet her best friend had insisted she meet someone genuine for once. Emily doubted it. Her world revolved around high-stakes negotiations and corporate boardrooms, not quiet dinners with strangers. Still, she had agreed, if only to silence her friend's persistent matchmaking attempts. At the corner table sat a man who didn't look anything like the polished executive she was used to. His broad shoulders filled out a simple button-down shirt, his hair slightly tousled, and at his feet rested a small, brightly colored backpack with cartoon unicorns. He stood as she approached, offering a polite smile and his hand. "Hi, I'm Daniel." Emily raised an eyebrow, glancing at the bag. "You brought your daughter's backpack to a date?" Daniel gave a sheepish chuckle. "Yeah, came straight from picking her up. Single dad life, I guess." Sliding into her seat, Emily smirked. "Wow. My friend really thought this would work out. A CEO and a single dad. Cute, but not exactly my scene." Her words landed heavier than she intended, but Daniel simply nodded, his composure steady. "Fair enough. I thought maybe we could just enjoy some good food and see where the conversation goes." Throughout dinner, Emily barely touched her pasta. She scrolled through her phone, answering a few emails between half-hearted questions. When Daniel tried to lighten the mood with a joke about parenting, she rolled her eyes. And when the waitress returned a forgotten toy, a little stuffed bunny that belonged in the backpack, Emily let out a soft laugh, more amused at the situation than the man himself. "This feels more like babysitting than dating," she muttered under her breath. Daniel didn't argue. He had been through worse, disapproving in-laws, colleagues who underestimated him, parents who thought he had ruined his life by choosing fatherhood over ambition. Yet, despite the sting of her words, he kept his calm. When the check arrived, he quietly paid, then stood, offering her a small, respectful nod. "Thanks for your time." Emily exhaled, almost relieved to leave, convinced she'd forget him by morning. But as she watched him walk away, something strange tugged at her, something she couldn't quite name. She told herself it didn't matter. Little did she know, fate had other plans for both of them. Emily stepped out of the restaurant into the crisp evening air, pulling her coat tighter around her shoulders. She was already composing a message to her driver when a sudden screech of tires shattered the quiet street. A black van skidded to a halt, its doors flinging open as two masked men leapt out, charging straight toward her. For a split second, Emily froze, her breath caught in her throat, unable to comprehend what was happening. Then terror surged through her as one of them shouted her name. They weren't random attackers, they were after her. Her mind raced back to the anonymous threats she had brushed off as empty corporate intimidation. She had always dismissed them as nothing more than rivals trying to scare her. Now she realized how wrong she had been. Before she could scream, a figure moved swiftly between her and the attackers. Daniel. He must have been leaving the restaurant when he saw what was happening. Without hesitation, he shoved Emily behind him, planting himself firmly in front of her like a shield. "Run," he barked, his voice sharp with authority. But Emily's legs felt like stone, her body frozen in place as the men lunged forward. Daniel moved with startling precision, blocking the first swing and countering with a forceful shove that sent one attacker stumbling back. The other came at him with a knife, and Daniel twisted, dodging with a speed and strength that didn't match the gentle man she had mocked over dinner. His every move was controlled, practiced, almost like he had done this before. Emily watched in shock as the man she had dismissed as just a single dad fought with the kind of skill that belonged to someone trained, someone dangerous in his own right. He grabbed her wrist and pulled her toward a side alley, his grip firm yet careful. "Move, Emily." This time, her legs obeyed, her heels clattering against the pavement as they sprinted together through the narrow street. Her lungs burned, her heart racing faster than it ever had in a boardroom negotiation. They didn't stop until they reached a quieter corner, where Daniel pressed her against the wall, his eyes scanning the darkness. "Who are they?" he demanded, his voice low, controlled, but edged with concern. Emily swallowed hard, her voice trembling. "Competitors. I've been threatened before, but never like this." Daniel's jaw tightened, his eyes hard. "You should have taken it seriously. Tonight, you're lucky I was here." For the first time that evening, Emily didn't feel powerful at all, she felt fragile. And the man she had mocked was the only reason she was still standing. Daniel insisted on driving Emily home, and though she initially protested, the adrenaline still coursing through her veins made her realize she didn't want to be alone. His truck was older, its paint slightly faded, but the inside told a story she hadn't expected. A child's car seat sat in the back, with scattered crayons and a half-finished coloring book on the floor. A faded photograph was clipped to the visor, Daniel with a wide smile, holding a little girl with pigtails who looked no older than 6. Emily glanced at it, her chest tightening with something she couldn't quite define. "Your daughter?" she asked softly. "Yeah," Daniel said, his voice warm despite the tension lingering in the air. "Lily. She's my whole world." For once, Emily didn't have a sarcastic response ready. She sat quietly, her usual walls crumbling just a little. By the time they reached her building, Daniel parked and insisted on walking her inside. At first, Emily bristled at the idea, she was used to projecting strength, independence. But tonight, after the attack, she admitted, I'd rather not be alone right now." Inside her luxurious penthouse, Emily poured them both coffee, her hands still trembling slightly as she set the cups on the counter. She studied Daniel across the room. His shirt was wrinkled, his jawline shadowed with stubble, but there was a calm strength about him that unsettled her more than the attack had. "You saved me tonight," she whispered, guilt creeping in as she remembered her earlier mockery. "And I made fun of you." Daniel shrugged lightly, sipping his coffee. "Doesn't matter. What matters is that you're safe." Emily stared at him, stunned by his simplicity. Most men she knew thrived on ego, on making her feel indebted. But Daniel didn't seem to care about her status, her money, or her power. He cared only that she was okay. As the minutes stretched into an hour, conversation began to flow naturally. Daniel shared bits of his life, how Lily had lost her mom, how he balanced odd jobs with fatherhood. Emily found herself confessing things she hadn't told anyone, about how lonely leadership could feel, how difficult it was to trust in a world where everyone wanted something from her. And then, unexpectedly, she laughed, genuinely, at one of his infamous dad jokes. For the first time in years, the sound didn't feel forced. Sitting there in her penthouse, Emily realized she was beginning to see Daniel in an entirely new light. The following morning, Emily awoke to a flood of notifications on her phone, news outlets buzzing about the attempted attack, shareholders demanding answers, and her inbox overflowing with concerns about security. Normally, she would have been consumed by the chaos, but today felt different. Her first thought wasn't of the company or the headlines, it was of Daniel. True to his word, he had texted her early, "You okay? Lily says heroes drink hot chocolate, so I'm bringing some by." For reasons she couldn't explain, Emily found herself smiling at the message, a warmth she hadn't felt in years settling in her chest. When the doorbell rang, she opened it to find Daniel standing there, holding 2 steaming cups of hot chocolate. At his side was a little girl clinging shyly to his hand. Lily peeked up with wide eyes, her pink sweater slightly oversized and her hair tied into playful pigtails. She carried a piece of paper, folded carefully, which she handed to Emily. Unfolding it, Emily's heart melted. It was a simple crayon drawing of 3 stick figures, Daniel, Lily, and herself, holding hands beneath a bright yellow sun. Emily knelt down, touched more deeply than she wanted to admit. "Is this me?" she asked softly. Lily nodded, her small voice clear. Daddy saved you. So now you're family. Daniel's face flushed with embarrassment. Sorry, she's got a big imagination, he muttered, but Emily wasn't laughing. Her eyes stung with unexpected tears. No, Lily, she said, pulling the little girl into a gentle hug, I'd be lucky to be part of your family. That afternoon, the three of them sat together in Emily's spacious living room, sipping hot chocolate while Lily showed off her drawings. For once, Emily wasn't thinking about corporate strategies or market shares, she was simply present. She realized how empty her penthouse had always felt until now, how her carefully built walls had kept out not just pain, but joy too. As Daniel prepared to leave, Emily stopped him at the door. You know, she said quietly, her voice softer than usual, last night I thought this blind date was a mistake. But now, I'm starting to think it might have been the best thing that ever happened to me. Daniel smiled, his eyes steady, filled with something she had been searching for all her life, trust. And as the door closed behind them, Emily knew her life was no longer the same. The man she had mocked was now the one she couldn't imagine living without.